ready, gentlemen? Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. Rod Bowman has left, but I want to thank him for coming and letting us in this evening. I will call the meeting to order at about 8 minutes after 7, according to that clock. So again, thank you all for coming. I'd like to acknowledge we're on Treaty 1 land and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. And a reminder that this meeting is being videotaped and will be uploaded to our website tomorrow. And I will start with introductions on my right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erwin Kumpka from Albert Beach.
Hello and welcome. I'm Graham Randall and I live at Wanising.
Penny McMorris.
Raymond Moore, OCAO.
Steve Axworthy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Bartmanovich, and I am situated deep in the enclave known as Pine Glen.
Which is up off of 504. And I've just been reminded that the meeting will not be uploaded probably until Thursday. So we have an adoption of the agenda, which was circulated to council. Be it resolved that the agenda be adopted with the following additions: June committee reports, Northeast Man Community Health Committee, Municipal Rep, Eastern Regional Municipal Lobby Committee membership. Can I get a mover and a seconder, and we can see if there are any further additions? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kumka. Any further additions, gentlemen? Erwin, did you want to add a library board, or have you met? No, you haven't. If you...
I can give a short report.
Okay, we'll just add it in with the committee reports then.
Actually, there was the AllNet system.
Do we want to make a decision on that tonight? We don't have any information in front of us tonight, is the only thing.
We can hold off, I guess.
Okay, next meeting?
Yeah.
All right. Any further comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to the minutes of the May 21st, 2019 regular meeting of council, also circulated to all of council. Be it resolved that the minutes of the June 4th, 2019 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. Mover and seconder. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Bartmanovich. Any discussion on the minutes, gentlemen? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right. We have two delegations before us tonight. First one up is Barb Pritchard to speak to us about a multi-court facility. Barb, can I ask you to step up to the microphone, and you have the floor. You might just take it out and turn it on.
Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Barb Pritchard, and thank you to the Reeve and councillors. What I'm doing this evening is to come up with I was approached for a multi-court play court structure in Victoria Beach, and I've walked around with several different councillors to identify potential locations for a multi-sport court. And the multi-sport court would have volleyball, pickleball, basketball, forecourt, foursquare. Should I sort of show this? Here's like these are just, so what I'm hoping to do is to perhaps narrow down some potential locations and get feedback from the council where they think is the ideal location. And then at that point, I'll go back to a committee of people, and then we'll start to coordinate finalizing pricing, fundraising, just to get the feedback from the council and the community. And I have samples of the court structure if anyone would like to see them, and I also have a brochure.
Any comments from council? Mike?
Well, Barb, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to take a tour with you. I enjoyed it. It's the first time I spent that much time on the village green and by the tennis courts. I'm not a tennis player myself, but I think it's a great idea. Anything that promotes activity, especially outdoor activity. And I think some of the activities that can be made available from these courts, they truly are activities that just are not available right now with our current facilities. And I'm a huge fan of this initiative, and you know where I think they should be. So,
Okay.
Question?
Go ahead, Irwin.
On this schematic here, you show 5 different sites.
Yes.
Are you contemplating building all 5, or these are 5 potential of which you might choose 1 or 2?
These are 5 alternatives to where the court could possibly be
So
placed.
you'd be building 1 initially?
1 court.
Okay.
Yep. These are just identifiable spots, and the one at the back by Gibson actually is not going north-south, it's going east-west, and it's tucked a bit more at the end on the memorial ground there.
Thank you for showing me around, and I took the tour and we walked the ground and looked at it. Do you recall what we agreed upon allowing for the fence as far as the footprint of the overall development? What did it turn out to be, 65 by 110 or something like that?
I think so, yes.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think that could be, I think the court is adjustable at this point based upon going back to the community, seeing what the actual needs are, and then making slight adjustments if required, and depending upon the ideal location that we can select.
Yeah.
Then we can tweak it a little bit.
And we had discussed that what fits and what works for the community is more important than the absolute official world-class size of
Yes.
a court.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
I do like this the proposal. I'd like the idea of it. My issue is only with the 5 locations presented. They're all inside of the village green and inside the restricted area. While I don't necessarily have a problem with that, it's just there's so much there already that for me, I would almost like it to be a little bit more center, so something around the sports complex. So then that way everybody feels as though they're included. I guess my main fear is that because it's behind the gate, that a lot of residents who aren't inside the restricted area are going to feel that maybe we're excluded from that, or feel some hardship to get to it. If it's by the sports complex, we're going to be looking at ways that we can get people from the restricted area to that sports complex a little bit easier, a little bit more efficiently. And that's really where I would like to see it. So it's more of a unifying structure rather than just being behind the gate.
Right. I think that's a good point. One thing about the multi-court is the fact that it is flexible and always changing. So for 1 hour we could play volleyball, switch it over, then a basketball game can begin. They can play pickleball. Victoria Beach is designed with a system of summer staff, which would then be approaching the club just to integrate it into the programming. We can initiate programs to invite and welcome people from outside of the gates into joining these programs. Multi-courts require somebody changing out all of the equipment, the storage of the equipment, and the maintenance. Personally, I feel that it's, I would like to see, there's lots of eyes on in the community. And I think that if we take this court and we put it away from everybody, and if it's less chances of vandalism potentially, but we could integrate different ways of reaching out to people on the other side of the gates.
Fair points, but also for somebody to vandalize something that's right in front of where the police station is, I never said that criminals are smart, but
Right.
you know,
No, well, my point is the fact that then you're going to have somebody who's going to be, in order for the program to constantly be changing, you're going to have to be changing the nets out, the equipment out. you're going to go from pickleball, kids playing foursquare, the badminton, perhaps even floor hockey. All of those require a storage shed and changing of the equipment.
Absolutely. No, I understand that. It's just logistics. That's really my vote on this, is that I would
Sure.
prefer to see it outside of the gates.
Okay.
And I too took the tour and looked at a few potential sites. I think the idea is interesting. I personally don't want to see any more structures on the village green.
Yep.
I don't think, as someone who is involved in the VB Club for 16 years, that we need any more activities. I think we've got lots of outdoor activities for our kids. There is pickleball up here at the club 6 mornings a week. And we have had a basketball court or basketball net in the village green at one time, and it was vandalized relatively quickly. But it also didn't have a cement pad, which, it's kind of hard to bounce a ball on grass. I, like Steve, would like to see it up here, more inclusive for the entire community. I would like to know what role the Victoria Beach Club will be taking if council agrees to go ahead with one of your locations. I would like to know what you're going to need for storage, what you're going to need for land.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to know that the community, especially within the Victoria Beach Club community, has been consulted and is on board with one more major expense to maintain and keep going. So I think you still need to go back to the community and see what they have to say and get the blessing of the club, because we, as an RM, do not look after recreational facilities other than our golf course.
Right.
So
Perhaps tonight we can eliminate some of the properties of the 5 potential spots and narrow it down and make it easier for people to get an idea of, if we have a smaller footprint to choose from, if we can perhaps eliminate 2 of the spots, or so we could eliminate. Do you consider the location? There's a location by the Moonlight Inn.
it looks to me like that's on the little road that goes around the back of the Moonlight.
It is on the road, but there's actually a little more land than.
Yeah.
So, when you walk around and it's not, there's more room.
Yeah. It's hard to tell, isn't it?
Why don't we just eliminate the corner Gibson, the
So
one on
that one?
the end one, and the one by the stage, which is actually more into
Yeah.
the bush there. So let's take those 2 off. And then I can approach back in the community and add these 3 spots. And then you said outside of the gates?
Yeah.
And where were you thinking for that?
Just over by the community center. If anything, just based on the 5 locations that you've put down here, I would prefer to see it over by Gibson Road, Gibson Drive, because so little happens over there. It's just sort of a free space.
Right.
So if it's going to be put anywhere, I would put it in that spot. Almost, if you see right on the bottom right corner, there's a nice sort of clearing there.
Yes.
Right around there is where I would put it if I were to vote for a spot there. But definitely over by the community center is my number 1 priority.
Okay.
As we had discussed in our walk around, I kind of like the one down in the corner over near Gibson, because it's in a relatively unused portion of the village green. It's way off to the edge. And then Gibson, the proximity of Gibson with just a bit of shrubbery gives better access for people on bicycles, or people walking, or perhaps people on wheelchairs who
Yes.
might find this quite an entertaining outing. One other thing that we talked about, and I'm sure the subject came up with each of the councillors who you've met with, is the money, the financing. It's our understanding that this would be an initiative of the VB Club.
No, it would be an initiative of the community.
Of
not
the
VB
community?
Club. I'm not
Okay.
representing the VB Club.
All right.
I will work with the Victoria Beach Club, but I'm not representing the Victoria Beach
That's
Club.
good. That clears up one thing, and that would have been a problem. So that's good. Thank you.
Rowan?
What age group would typically be using this facility?
All age groups.
All
I've
age-
also put on the multi-court Foursquare, which was one of the most popular games if you ever gone to a schoolyard with elementary kids. And they then integrate from Foursquare to right now there's pickleball, which is you go from the little kids to the seniors.
So there would be like a regimented schedule of events. It wouldn't just be kind of a facility that people would go to and pick up a basketball game.
I think that eventually, like if the if we have the land and the project is greenlit and we have the financing, then I think then we have to sit down and work along with the club or people in the community to decide which schedule works best for which activities. Perhaps early morning will be better for the little kids. And in the evening, basketball, pick-up basketball games. I mean, basketball is now extremely popular, something for the teens to do. And mid-morning, perhaps pickleball when it's not too hot. So the schedule of which activity when is just logistics to try to figure out which group wants what at what time.
You know, I like the idea of having it near the rec center, but on the other hand, the vast majority of the people who are actively involved, you know, in the area behind the gates, you know, are congregating there. So
Yeah.
it would probably be used more if it were inside the gates.
Well, there's washroom facilities right there.
When I go to the bakery, I could stop in.
Yes. And there's also, like, as a parent, it is convenient to have everything all together when you have little children, to be able to have, you know, if your child's on the playground, they can see you playing tennis. You can see the kids playing basketball. Just a ease of convenience.
We had talked a little bit about approximate price tag, and that would depend on the substrate and the synthetic court structure. Have you given any more thought to a approximate total price tag?
The price tag for the project is
For the-
at this point,
Yeah,
it's probably over 100,000.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree that it's possibly well over 100,000, depending on
Yeah.
the nature of the substrate. But and with what you present to the community, will you also offer a bit of a blow up of the court structure itself, so they get a little better idea what's on that surface?
Yes, yes.
Thank
I
you.
even brought samples tonight if anyone would like to see the court structure. I have a brochure if you wanted to flip through that to get an idea what the structure will look like.
Any new questions?
I just wanted to, well, quasi. I just want to circle back to the inclusiveness, and that is that the structure, the activity structure, will be for everyone in Victoria Beach. Number one. Number two, if that is the case, will you invite a consultation from folks outside of the gated area to get involved in any kind of committees or,
Yes.
or other initiatives that are
Yeah.
involved?
I will gladly work with anybody on outside of the gates who wants to join the committee to give their voice, have an opinion, meet their needs. They're more than welcome to contact me. If you want my name after, I can give you my email and join our committee.
All right, council, any other questions for Barb? Steve?
I would just say the model, if you can just leave it in the back so that everybody can just sort of go over and take a look at it. Oh, are the samples that you had just over there. Just if you can put them on the back table, then once everybody is sort of done with the meeting, we can all sort of
Yeah,
go
sure.
over and take a look.
Yeah.
Possible to flash one in front of our camera?
I mean, we could. I mean, I'll just take a. We can take a picture and put it up online after. And just one clarification is Foursquare. It's not for kids. I love Foursquare. So
Okay.
yeah, it's awesome.
But you probably played as a kid.
Yeah.
Kids of all ages, maybe
Kids-
we should
Kids
say.
of all ages.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I don't know that council is going to narrow down a site for you tonight, Barb, but I think you've got a lot of legwork to do as well, right? Especially with community consultation. So where do we want to leave this? Do you want to come back to us perhaps in the summer, or let us know how it's going with your community consultation?
Okay. Is there anybody on council that I could work with and then we could present?
Not me.
Just a thought.
Maybe I'm I'm sort of to my gills right now, but
Yeah, that's the problem.
yeah.
Yeah. You don't
Oh.
have to commit.
Yeah.
We'll talk afterwards, and
Yeah.
and yeah, I'll try as hard as I can.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to add, Barb?
Nope, that's everything.
Great. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Good idea. See where it goes. Thank you. All right. Moving on to Tim Fluke.
Tim Fluke from the restricted area. I think some of you know me as an old grouch.
I don't know
so-
that you're on, Tim.
Yeah, Raymond, am I on?
Now you are. Yeah.
Raymond, thank you for putting me on the list at the last minute. Appreciate it. I sent the council, each one individually, some months ago, 2 months, perhaps 3, some information or some questions on the 1967 bicentennial cairn or monument, which was beside the old curling rink. It is still there. My question is, and as I had asked back then, where would it be moved to, and when will this happen? And there's very few people who built this are still alive, very few. I strongly suspect that by looking at the brickwork, or I should say the stonework, it was done by Johnny Attia, who has made many fireplaces within the beach. Now, I guess my question is, what are we going to do about it? I've heard kind of a background that they may be going to put a little green in there, but that cairn doesn't belong to them. It belongs to this municipality, and it's got to be retained by the municipality. 67, I mean, it's not a young, it's over 50 years old already. And likely there is a time box inside of it, not a time box, but you know what I mean, a capsule inside of it, likely. There's probably 1 or 2 people we could ask, but be about it.
You did bring this forward in the end of March,
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
and I
There
answered
was snow
you.
on the ground, I know that.
I know, and I answered you from Portugal, and I said I'd get back to you, and I haven't, so I apologize for that.
I'll just mark it down. Don't worry about it.
I know. Add it to your list. But my concern with it, Tim, is that we used to own that, or we used to own the land, the RM.
Mhm.
The club had a 99-year lease, is my understanding. We sold that land, and the money was donated to the new sports club to help them out. The cairn was not part of the deal at the time. Maybe it should have been, but it wasn't. It's now on the property of a private property owner. I spoke to the president or chair of the new sports club, and he said he was going to get in touch with the property owner and talk to him. But I could be wrong, but I don't think it's a municipal project to move, and it is on private property now.
It was owned by the municipality. And you just can't wash your hands
What
of
was
it.
owned at
The cairn. The cairn was built by the people of this beach.
That's
and you-
true, but it was left behind when the property was sold.
Yes,
And
but you were the
unfortunately-
people that sold it.
That's right, and unfortunately, for good or bad, it was left behind, and now it is part of someone's private property.
Well, I really think it's still the responsibility of this municipality and council to have that moved. I know you've said you don't want anything more on the green,
Mhm.
and I appreciate that because the vandalism will just rip it to pieces. I would suggest that it goes up beside the club because that's where it originally came from, and should go back there.
I don't disagree with that, but I think right now it's up to the club to approach the private property owner.
Well, I'm sorry, I disagree with you, totally.
I know.
What's happening is the municipality is washing its hands of this, and that's not acceptable.
Well, nothing was done at the time. We can't go back, unfortunately. If the private property owner is willing to part with it, and if it can be moved, which I'm not so sure about. When I looked at it, it didn't look all that stable. But if it can be moved and the private property owner is willing to do so, then this club can make that decision, but it is not now anymore our cairn, to my knowledge. But council, what say you?
Well, I did speak with the property owner, and he has assured me that nothing is going to happen to the cairn while it's on their property. So there is room and there is time to approach the owner and ask what the plans are for the cairn, and the property owner is a pretty reasonable person.
Oh, I know Cameron too.
There's a possibility that maybe we can come to an arrangement, and the cairn, if it is movable, can be moved. But although I wish the club well in its endeavor to have it moved, I think this would be something between the community center and the current property owner.
Erwin?
Moving that cairn's going to be a real challenge. I've gone and looked at it myself.
There's
I
enough
think
machines here around this area that can pick it up like peanuts and walk away with it.
Graham is working on a plan to turn that property possibly into a seniors site, and it might be appropriate just to leave the cairn where it is and have the people that are going to be living there be able to recognize it, and it could fit in quite nicely with his concepts. But again, it comes down to we have a situation where we no longer have any legal control over the cairn. Whether we like that or not, that's a fact, and it would require satisfactory agreements to be reached between whoever's going to take responsibility to move it and the private property owner.
Was this done by this council or the previous one?
The previous council. No, two councils ago, which I was on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I remember that, Karen, well. I've been, out here and attending things here for many, many, many years. To me, it makes sense that the Karen should be hopefully could be gifted or granted to the community center, because as we all know, the old sports club, that's the heritage, that's the history of the community center we see here today. So I think I don't see why if they attempt to lay claim to it, I don't see why that would fail. Mr. Cameron's a fairly reasonable person. Tim, just to give you a chance to speak your mind, Erwin's explained our position. What role do you see council playing in this?
Well, I really think that the council obviously dropped the ball, but they have a chance to pick it up again. And I think it's part of the history of this RM.
You're suggesting
Definitely of
that,
the curling rink and of the Legion that was there.
yeah. So you're suggesting that perhaps council could play a role in brokering the deal?
I would suggest that would be a good move to make.
Well, that'll be a council decision, but thank you.
okay, thank you. Steve?
There are there's one spot that I can think of that just became available today, actually, that I was thinking about, and it just so happened to open up. And there are a couple others that I was sort of looking at. The problem, as everybody already said, is that it is on private property. I'm very open to council getting involved to just try to ask. But possibly one might be the community club. I can't really say what that other location is right now, but it would be very prominent. But yeah, that was the primary problem, was that it was on private property.
Okay. I have been in touch with the president, as I said, of this current sports club. And
Over here?
Yep.
Mhm.
And so if his board agrees and they want council to help approach the property owner, I'd be happy to do that. But as a council, I don't believe it's our role to just move that cairn. So are you comfortable with that, if we can come to some agreement or at least approach both owners?
At this point in time, I'm not going to get ticked yet.
Oh, that's good.
But I will say that if it's 2 councils back, then that was a serious error. And of course, the next council was, I'm not going there, so. Anyway, for now, that's all right. I would like a time frame.
Well, I've already started the discussion with the president, so I will try and get back to him this week or next and see if we can get in touch with the property owner and go from there. So can we say possibly the next council meeting?
Yeah, I won't be in the peg for it.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I know, perfect, yeah. No, I have enough things going on.
It's fair to
Okay.
say, I think everyone's in agreement that we must save the care, and there's some logistical problems that have to be worked out.
Well, you can pick it up with steel
I'm
and
just-
a draught.
I'm just
We'll lift
afraid it might fall apart, Tim. But I don't know enough about it, but
Well, as I
let's-
said, I believe by looking at the design and the way it's been made, it's a Johnny Attia affair. And I'll tell you, there's fireplaces in the beach that have been he built when he was a young guy,
yeah.
and they're still solid as rocks. I would suggest this is probably the same. Well, they have to be rocks anyway.
But Irwin alluded to something. He said it might be, it might be good to leave it where it is as a monument to the old sports club, to the old curling rink, and have it be a part of the new development that the property owner may or may not build. It could also be part of the history of that spot.
I think the
So
problem that the risk that you run is it's on private property, and I can do whatever I want with anything that's on my
That's
property.
right. You have no control. It's gone once you say that. And
If it's on municipal property, which is where I would prefer to see it, rather than even the community center, because then it's
But it is a
protected.
community center monument.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm just saying that if we can get it on municipal property, if it's just off of the community center, it could be right in front, then at least it can be protected by the RM. That way, it's just any private interest can't affect it.
And I think it might also be worth considering that when we did sell that property, no one from the sports club mentioned it.
well, things were going differently then, I would
Yeah.
think.
And it just seems to me that it was a big oversight on,
On everybody's part,
right,
really.
right.
Yeah.
So we will see what we can do for you.
I mean, I was around. I never said anything.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize. I assumed it was going,
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd hate to see it gone. I leaned on that bird having a few beers over the years. Opened a few beers on the edge of it. It worked. But those are long days ago. I
Okay.
don't drink beer that much anymore. So anyway,
Okay.
thank you
Thanks
very
very
much
much,
for your
Tim.
time. And I look forward to hearing
Yeah.
24 hours, whatever.
Yeah, no.
Thanks. All
Thanks
right,
very
thank you.
much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Moving on to committee reports. Let's start with Public Works, please. Graham and/or Mike.
If it's June, it must be Mike. The maintenance is ongoing on vehicles and equipment. Our folks at Public Works are squeezing every last drop of life they can out of all of our equipment. Garbage and recycling collection is now in full swing. Water samples for Victoria Beach, Albert Beach, and the fire hall are taken bi-weekly throughout the summer and submitted to a lab in Winnipeg. Again, we're working very closely with the Office of Drinking Water every step of the way. The graveling of roads throughout the RM has now been completed. The first round of dust-off was completed. Some additional roadways were identified that could also benefit from the dust-off, and Council has approved adding the dust-off to more streets. Background to that is the original dust-off application plan is probably 30 or 40 years old, and a lot of the streets that are now populated with residents and cottagers were not populated at the time. I think this is becoming a necessity for quality of life more and more throughout the municipality, and I, for one, am going to advocate for greater dust-off coverage now and in the future. A large green roll-off bin, some of you may have noticed it, was placed at the Victoria Beach gate. This is for glass only. And just a note that ties into the communications committee, it's getting to be the time of year where a lot of people are showing up for the summer season, and they have questions and they have requests, and contacting individual counselors who are. This is our busy season too, unfortunately, and despite the best of notes that we take, things do fall through the cracks. So we do strongly urge everyone to, if you haven't already done so, sign up for the e-service function on the RM website and submit your requests through e-services. That protects us and it protects you. It's documented, much less of a chance of things falling through the cracks, and then you get irate and we're wondering why you're irate. Civic signs, some of you may know that the Resource Center has passed administration of the green civic signs to the municipality. You can order the civic signs through Public Works at a cost of $60, payable to the RM in Victoria Beach, and that's for installation this fall. And finally, I'm happy to report that now that we're back to a full complement, Tam is out there working his magic all over the place. Grass and flower beds are being attended to and will be attended to on an ongoing basis throughout the summer. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike. On to finance.
I do not have a formal report, as Lynn Kimmelman has been away for the last 2 weeks and we did not get financial results. So next month you will get a report on 2 months of activity. I am delighted to report, though, that we have received over $300,000 in advance payments for taxes. We're very grateful for those folks who like to pay their taxes when they get the bill, and that certainly helps our cash flow.
Okay, thanks, Erwin. Protective Services, Steve?
For protective services, sorry, just pulling it up right now. There we go. So for the fires, there were two in Victoria Beach and 3 in the RM of Alexander. This was for the previous month. Obviously, most of us are going to be quite aware that there was a fire just over 2 kilometers or miles away from Victoria Beach, just over a week ago. What I want to say to this, and I'm just going to sort of skip over this report strictly because I want to mention July 10th is going to be our Fire Smart meeting. It's really vital that as many people come to that as possible. I don't think that any of us truly understand the risk that we're all at when it comes to fire. It's extreme. We are surrounded by balsams. We're surrounded by evergreens. Evergreens in general have 30 seconds until their entire fuel load is spent. So just sort of absorb that for 1 second, and an entire evergreen can go up in 30 seconds. And to come to the Fire Smart meetings and understand how you can begin to prepare your property in the event of a fire, but also what you can do to prevent yourself from being the person who may accidentally, of course, start that fire is some really valuable knowledge. So again, it's on July 10th. It's going to be here at the senior center. Nope. Oh, sorry, the community center.
6:30 to 8:30.
From 6:30 to 8:30. So please come out to that meeting because it really is something that you can do for yourself to protect yourself and to protect the community.
Steve, just to clarify, the meeting is not dealing with just Fire Smart. It's dealing with the emergency measures plan that needs to be put in place for the community.
Mm.
Okay.
But
All good.
the Fire Smart is one of the
Okay. And the rest of your report there, Steve?
So other than the big fire call, we had three calls in the RM of Alexander. All were medical in nature. One of the calls went from an emergency call to life-threatening emergency call. And with the amazing people we had at our department in Pine Falls, ambulance attendants working together, we were able to give a man more time to spend with his family and friends. With the police, the main issue that they're finding right now is speeding. People having to realize that they need to register for their fire permits, and the fact that we do have a fire ban, and just general issues as have been going on for the year.
When is the next police board meeting?
I'd have to look that up for you. Just give me a minute. I'll
I
find
think
it.
it's in early July.
July?
July 7th, and will that be here?
Yes.
Okay. You'll put that in council corner or the police corner or something? Okay. Thanks very much, Steve.
Put everything in my phone. When my phone goes off, I know I have something in a week.
Okay, special events. I'll just give you a brief update on plans for the 100th anniversary. Lee's at Safi's store in Albert Beach is hosting French, Métis, and Indigenous cultural events on August the 5th. The Village Green will be the venue for the 100th Anniversary Day celebrations on August 6th, and I'm still working out some details and some volunteer opportunities. We have face painters coming. I'm looking for more kids' activities in the morning. I've been in touch with the 3 local merchants, the store, the bakery, and the Moonlight, and I hope that they can provide some interesting VB Day specials. We're encouraging people to bring a picnic and a lawn chair or a blanket and enjoy the day. We'll be unveiling our legacy structure on the Village Green and the other interpretive panels around the community. We'll have speeches at noon. 2 bands, possibly 3, are scheduled to be playing in the afternoon, possibly early evening. We have an event tent ordered, and just because I've ordered one, I'm sure the sun will be shining. But if not, we will have a tent for people to get out of the weather. There will be Faith Bible Camp tours during the week, cemetery history tours, and of course the much-awaited, much-anticipated VB musical on August 10th and 11th, which will be here in the senior scene. So stay tuned for our 100th anniversary updates on our Facebook page, and please contact me if you want more details, or contact Margaret if you want to know about the musical, or anyone else who's putting these events on, and thank you all for doing that.
It'll be happening at the social scene.
Pardon me, the social scene. I'm not there yet. I can't get over the senior scene. All right. Thank you, Mike. Moving on to the golf course. I guess...
Well, my game's not getting any better. But
Pardon?
besides that, I'm
sorry.
happy to report that the north door on the clubhouse has been replaced and trimmed out marvelously. And we brought it in probably somewhere around $300 under budget. So all's good there.
Municipal buildings. Is it back to Mike? Oh, Graham gets municipal buildings.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I haven't prepared a municipal buildings report, but a few things for interest. Randy and Ona advised me a while ago that the tank, the vault for the Pierpoint Privy is on its way, or will be here any day now, and they promised to advise me, because I'd like to go over and witness the internment of the vault. The throne that sits on it has been ordered from a company in the Yukon. There are very few that offer that. And our selected contractor for the structure that sits on top of the vault, we have to call it a vault. We can't call it a holding tank. It's not legal, but don't worry about it. Wolfcraft is building the structure on top to the outline design and specs that we have agreed amongst ourselves, and thank you to Rod Bowman, who's not here, but maybe he's watching later. He participated with us, and Wolf has been collecting the materials, so he's all set to go as soon as the base is in place. Penny and I were attending to some details associated with the gate office, so that'll be up and running and in reasonably good shape. Nothing else specifically to report on municipal buildings at this time. Thank you.
And Doctor Committee, Graham, Irwin?
Pleased to report that the painting of the doctor's cabin is underway. I did a walk around today, and it's looking much better. Our thanks to Kathy McKibben for organizing a complete schedule of doctors. The entire summer will be covered, and the first doctor will be arriving, I believe, on the 28th or 29th of June.
Thank you very much. Did you want to add any more to communications, Mike or Steve?
I think the main thrust of it is for now. The e-services function on the website is there for you folks to use. I hope you'll take the opportunity to use it. Thanks.
And 2 notices were sent out today by e-news. One on wildlife safety and awareness, and one
On the July 10th EMO.
On the July 10th meeting.
Right, very timely. Thank you to Lynn and the Winnipeg office for getting
To
those
Tammy.
out. Tammy?
Yeah.
Tammy.
All right. Moving on to the gate, Graham touched briefly on some of the building work that we were doing there a little bit, and I'd like to thank Graham and Raymond and our office staff for organizing and getting supplies and information ready and getting some maintenance work done on the building. And I can advise you, we have 3 ladies working in the information office this year from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., Monday to every day of the week, starting Friday, June 21st, and going to Monday, August 2nd, or Sunday, August 1st. Mobility scooters from Reliable Mobility in Winnipeg will be available for rental through the information office starting next week. They are in use at the Red River X at the moment. So when the Red River X is done, they will be coming up to Victoria Beach, and rates are still $20 per day. It's September 1st, I'm told they close. Okay, thank you. Building inspector?
Thanks, Penny. For May, 9 permits were issued altogether, 2 for structure additions, 1 outbuilding, a bunkie, 1 shed, 4 decks, and 1 Pier Point privy. The value of all of the work being undertaken, $172,185, and the value of the permits issued, $2,446.
Thank you very much. I have nothing new to report on accessibility yet. I will get in touch with Rod and with those who are still on the committee and move forward soon. Heritage Trails.
With Heritage, we're busy digitizing photos. I'm starting to run out, so if anybody has any photos that they want to send into the Heritage Committee, you can get a hold of myself or Stuart McPherson, Angel Craft, and I'm missing one, but you can always contact me. My email is just saxworthy@victoriabeach.ca. Just let me know that you have some photos that you want digitized and kept in Heritage. If you have any artifacts that you would like to give over, we just were able to get our hands on an ice scorer and some ice grips. If you have anything from back in the day, we'd really appreciate it. In terms of trails, we are going to be meeting in the next 2 weeks to finalize our recreational and trail management platform. So that's going to detail how we're going to be maintaining the trails over the foreseeable future. So it's just going to detail how everything's done and allow us to say which volunteers are doing what, when, and sort of prevent any of the issues that we've had in the past. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. We didn't necessarily add this to the agenda, but Mike, did you want to speak about the Health Committee meeting that you attended yesterday or today? Or yesterday? Sure. You sent a lovely report, so.
Yeah, I just have to find it. I just have to find that lovely report.
Can I give you a break, Irwin?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Why don't we do that?
Irwin, did you want to talk about the library board at all? quickly, or with a microphone?
Library Board met 2 weeks ago in St. George. Interestingly, the actual number of people reading books is declining, but the number of people reading electronic books is increasing. We are going to be looking at some ways to increase our readership. We have been able to fund, and thanks to our council, a couple of extra hours on Friday evening here. When you come and play bingo, you can also pick up a book. But it is a challenge because we see, as Stuart will confirm, the amount of physical reading of books is unfortunately declining. We were hoping to, and I will be making another effort. We're hoping to get some additional small signage here to let people know, because many people don't know that there is a Victoria Beach branch of the Allard Library, and we'd like to make people aware of that situation.
Okay, thanks very much. Are you ready to roll, Mike?
I took a little bit of a roundabout route in getting to my first health committee meeting at the Broken Head office in Beausejour yesterday afternoon, and my reports don't do me justice the way that Margaret reports on these things. However, Margaret will appreciate that I'm going to report the news as germane to the fine folks of Victoria Beach. So just a couple of highlights. There is a residency program which helps with the economic support of medical students, and this program is graduating 2 doctors in about 2 years. And they receive economic support in exchange for returning to rural communities and setting up practice within our regional health authority for an agreed period of time. The current complement of doctors at Parview Pine Falls Health Center is, I'm told, 5.2, and there is, of course, 1 nurse practitioner who works in the health center and also lends some support to the clinic in Whitemouth as well. There are 3 international graduate students who will be starting in our region in September upon receipt of their medical licenses. We also have 1 physician who is leaving Powerview and relocating to Stonewall in October. Also of note, you may have noticed that that mobile clinic bus with the smiling faces that used to run up and down Highway 59. It's reported to be on its last legs and will soon be requiring replacement or some extensive maintenance. Now, those folks who used the mobile clinic, fear not, in the interim, medical staff are still being transported in fleet vehicles to communities that they serve, and they're setting up in clinics, so they'll still be able to provide the mobile services. One of the initiatives that the Regional Health Authority is really keen on is not only their recruitment program, where they try and recruit new medical professionals to the area, but also their retention program. And it appears that their retention program is starting to pay dividends as students who are choosing to resident in our hospitals and health centers in the area are telling other students, encouraging other students to become rural family practitioners when their training is over and they receive their medical licenses. Another key of the retention program is the formation of an exit committee. And the exit committee is set up to learn from physicians who are leaving the area about what may have prompted them to leave the area and what might, if anything, might have convinced them to stay within the region. And the exit committee will set up interviews which are strictly optional for physicians who are leaving the Powerview Pine Falls area. And hopefully they will learn from these exit interviews and come up with better plans and programs to better retain health professionals in our area. I think those are really the highlights.
I think you did a great job. Thank you very much. Further down in our agenda, we're passing a resolution to nominate Mike or have Mike replace me on the Health Committee as our representative, and I thank you for that. I have to add one more thing to our committee reports, and that is the Northeastern Regional Municipal Lobby Committee, that meeting that I attended also yesterday morning. This is a relatively new committee that I was asked to join, and it's made up of municipal representatives from Lac du Bonnet, Pinawa, Whitemouth, Reynolds, Beausejour, and Alexander. And yesterday's meeting we had presentations on conservation districts and the new watershed districts that are going to be implemented by a provincial rep. And also we had a presentation by a very enthusiastic, energetic, going gangbusters wireless internet fiber optic company out of Winkler, Manitoba. And they are connecting small communities in the south region of the province. And any of the AMM meetings that I've been attending in the last 9 years, the issue has been we're not all connected, and it's a real health and safety issue for a lot of people in southern Manitoba. So these guys are going gangbusters, and they're connecting people up at a real great price, and they're doing a lot of really good work. Their plans to move north and east are longer term, but they are considering it. I've attended 3 of these meetings since February, and there is always something of interest that may pertains to our municipality. So further down in the agenda, I'm asking Council for approval to have a membership in this committee, and I have not billed for any of my meetings or mileage to attend the 3 meetings so far in Beausejour or Lac du Bonnet. So waiting for approval, and then I will start. All right, so be it resolved that the June 2019 committee reports be accepted as presented. Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kumka. Any further discussion on the committee reports or comments or questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Accounts and finances. Be it resolved the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 7415 to 7467 in the amount of $130,175.82, and June 14th payroll in the amount of $49,891.54. Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kumka. Any further discussion on the accounts and finances?
Again, I've reviewed them and they appear to be in order.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right. No business arising from the previous meeting, so we will move on to other business. All right, we have a resolution. Be it resolved, the August 6, 2019 regular council meeting be rescheduled to Wednesday, August the 7th, 6:30 p.m. at 705 1661 Portage Avenue in Winnipeg to enable council members to attend the municipality's 100th anniversary celebrations on August the 6th, 2019. Moved by Councillor Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Bartmanovich. Any comments or concerns?
Are there not activities scheduled for the Wednesday night as well?
I don't know that they're scheduled for Wednesday night. I believe they are during the day on Wednesday.
Okay.
But the 6th is our actual anniversary date, and it's the actual date of our first council meeting 100 years ago. So it would have been interesting to have a council meeting on that day 100 years later, but there are events going on, hopefully in the Village Green. So
That meeting's going to be in town, so that means
Yes.
if you're going to be participating, you're going to have to drive back into town.
right. But in order to cancel it completely or move it to the next week, then you've only got 1 week between meetings, or, you know, we do need those 2 meetings in the summer. And it is in the evening.
Can we just schedule it out here?
Do you
I
want to, sorry, go ahead.
Why don't we just have it here?
I'd certainly like the idea of moving it here.
Do
And
we have
actually
to,
have
dr-
a-
do we have
actually-
to dress in 100-year-old clothing?
So yes, because that sounds awesome. But I mean, we can still have it on the Tuesday. We can still just have it.
But
here.
there might be something going on Tuesday night in the Village Green.
Okay, then Wednesday here, if possible.
That's up to, that means our staff have to come out here again as well.
They're mobile.
They're mobile.
Well, they're going to be out here for the festivities anyway, so now they don't stay over.
Only, they don't all have places
Yeah,
to stay.
Yes, okay. Well, I have a spare room.
Okay. Back to the resolution, gentlemen. We have it right now, Wednesday, August 7th at 6:30 in the municipal office in Winnipeg. Am I hearing that you would like to move it out here and have
Could
2
I
meetings?
propose an amendment that we move the meeting to Victoria Beach social scene, assuming the space is available?
It is not available. I believe there are musical rehearsals going on that night. And line dancing.
Yeah. All of us, yeah. It's compulsory.
What about moving it to Thursday in Winnipeg? I don't think we can cancel it.
I like, for what it's worth, I like the Tuesday, the 6th, out here at 6 o'clock.
We can't have it on Tuesday. There may be events that in the Village Green.
Well, I thought most of the events on that special day were during the day rather than in the evening. But you
We're-
would know better.
Well, we're
but,
trying to organize a group of elder history holders, storytellers to do a presentation in the evening in the tent.
Yeah.
And there's a band that wants to play either later in the afternoon or in the evening between that time. So I will throw it out to council. I'm hearing Tuesday here, Irwin.
Just thinking perhaps we could have an earlier meeting if there are some conflicts in the evening. Is that a possibility?
Then it runs more into the big day.
What about just a shortened agenda? We respectfully request that there be no delegations for that one meeting. And we're through business as quickly as possible, and we're back to the festivities. Who knows? We might even be a bit of a draw.
But we don't have a venue.
We could move to the sports club, perhaps.
You mean the community center?
The community. I can't get any name right. I call it the sports club or the community center.
Let's move it to the Wednesday, subject to a satisfactory venue.
Don't we have to come up with an agreement to have it at a location right now?
No, 2 weeks in advance.
2 weeks in advance?
2 weeks in advance, so we technically have. We can do it at the next, yeah, we've got a few meetings to make that decision or find a spot. Maybe we should hold it in the tent on the Village Green.
So we have a venue now?
Well, we'll have to try and find a venue, I guess.
Well, consider all the alternatives and hopefully come to a decision at the next meeting in Winnipeg on the 18th. No, on the July the 2nd, pardon me.
July the 2nd, okay. Is council in agreement with that?
But that would pretty much be the deadline to nail down when the August meeting is going to be. Okay.
So what is it we're doing? Yes, I've. All right, we do have a mover and a seconder for the August 6th meeting to be moved to Wednesday, August 7th. So Are we for this or against this? Well, we already have a mover and a seconder.
We
So
can
all
withdraw.
those in favor,
We can withdraw the mover and seconder can withdraw and table it.
well, let's just vote on it. And all those in favor of moving it to August 7th at 6:30 in the city? All those not in favor? All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Defeated. Okay, so, gentlemen, we will have to figure this out. Let's try and figure this out for the next meeting, okay?
I'll find out about the community center's availability.
The sports club? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Thank you very much. I thought that was going to be an easy one. Okay. Okay, well, let's see what happens with the next one. Be it resolved that the arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized closure of the municipal office on August 6, 2019 to permit administrative staff to attend the municipality's 100th anniversary celebrations. I have a mover and a seconder. I'm not sure. I just thought of something.
No, you were going to throw up there.
Moved by Councillor Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Barmanovich. Discussion. I just had a thought that if we're closing the municipal office, should we also close the Public Works office or allow them to participate if time allows?
I think
Close at noon?
that's really what it's all about, is allowing them to come out and participate. The folks who work in the office in Winnipeg do an amazing job, and so few people here have probably ever had the opportunity to meet or talk to them, or in turn, for the folks in the Winnipeg office to actually meet, put faces to some of the voices that they've spoken
Yeah.
over the phone so many years. I have absolutely no problem with this.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I think it's appropriate to give them the opportunity to participate. They deserve it.
We'll take roll call, right? When we'll make sure they come out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They better show up.
Yeah. I'm sure they will. All right. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right. Moving on to PR 504 beach area. We've been getting some comments from residents about what's happening at the end of 504. What is council going to do? This was a priority for this council, and we have had some discussions going back and forth. I've got a file about this thick of papers going back and forth. So I just wanted to bring it back out and put it back on the table and see what council has in their mind for what we can do. Mike.
There is a plan that I had written that I had presented to the previous council some time ago, and I think a lot of the recommendations in that plan, a lot of the actions in that plan are still germane to the current situation, and I think it's something that council should take a strong second look at. In the interim, anybody who is familiar with the area of the beach at the north end of 504, there's not a lot of beach there. It's actually fairly grown in with the new reduced level of water. The only real pristine beach in the north end is what some people call Lost Beach, what our kids grew up calling the Big Beach, and that's the beach that's located on the west end of the Sandy Bay area, at the end of Olafson Boulevard, down the little path and over the stairs to the beach, and that's a fantastic beach. What I would like to do is I would like to see traffic diverted from 504 as a first step. First of all, establish it as a place to launch and trailer watercraft, and that's it. And get rid of some of the congestion that happens in the summer. Direct people to the big beach. It's a gorgeous beach. It's a beautiful walk to get there. Once we have the fact that the end of 504 is a boat launch and a boat launch only, then I would like to go forward with the phases, the steps in the phase plan that I had presented, where first and foremost we would introduce a form of control through a permitting system, and expand on that if expansion is required from there.
Mike and I have discussed this together on a number of occasions, and we agree on the general principles. The one point he made that's I think really worth repeating is the end of 504 is for launching boats only, and we should not encourage, condone, contemplate, blah, 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 any other types of activities. And Mike and most of the rest of council is aware of the fact that I've long been in favor of boat launch permits so that we could begin to exercise some degree of control over all that traffic and all those vehicles that coagulate that area in the peak of summer. And I don't want to sound discriminatory, but you know and I know that 95% of them are non-residents for whom I don't have a great deal of sympathy. So.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. There's one thing that a lot of us are forgetting, which is that any time that a truck or a tractor enters those waters, they're not permitted to do that. But B, when they come out, any vehicle, whether or not it's watercraft or not, has to be sanitized, and that is the law now. There is no sanitization station there. So, as a municipality, if we allow that to continue to be a boat launch, then we're actively saying that we don't mind anybody using that to break the law. We're condoning that. So I take issues with that. The reason why that was put in place was to prevent the spread of zebra mussels. You're not going to prevent them, but that is the reason the laws were changed. The other issue that a lot of residents have brought up is the ongoing noise issues, the parking issues. There's no parking spaces around that area, so we're going to have people continuing to park along the highway. I take a look at those, and I don't see it being feasible to leave it open to anybody to use whenever they want, whether or not they're residents or not. What I do see, though, because I've heard this multiple times, is that it's a safety issue if the weather changes really quick and the waves pick up because of the type of lake that we're on. It changes on a dime. So I would like to see it remain open, but strictly as a safety tool. I'm not sure how that could be arranged, but that's really the only way I see this going forward. The last thing I'll say in terms of it remaining open, and just the only other issue that's sort of going to sort of move me at all is the fact that historically it did used to be a dock year over year, and it was always torn. It wasn't actively torn down. The weather would tear it down, and they would rebuild it every spring. But we haven't done that for years, so I can't see it I can't see it staying open as an open boat launch.
Erwin?
A couple of things I think we have to consider. We will be having increased boat traffic at the Victoria Beach Estates once the dredging is completed.
Dredging is done.
That should reduce the flow of boats launches up at 504. Secondly, probably by this time next year, the Alexander boat launch will be operational, and again, that'll take some pressure off. And I think it's a big problem, but I think to solve the problem is going to take a fair bit of money. I mean, practically, perhaps we should be acquiring some property up there and doing what Alexander did in terms of creating a parking lot. That's not going to be cheap, but I think my comment would be let's wait and see what impact these two new changes will have, the Victoria Beach Estates and the Alexander boat launch, and see whether or not 504 doesn't ease up a bit.
Graham, did you want to add something?
Just to Steve, the zebra mussels is not necessarily an issue as far as whether we continue to launch boats there or not. I think, Steve, you may have. I attended the zebra mussel seminar here last year and met with the presenter later and put up some signs and got my machete out to clear some bush so you could see them better. Anyway, there's a very few sanitizing stations in the province, a handful of them. There are hundreds and hundreds of locations where you can launch and unlaunch your boat. Each and every one of them is supposed to have signage that warns everybody, if you're pulling your boat out of here, it has to be sanitized before you plunk it in any other body of water. The province has already provided for that, so the spread of zebra mussels, I would argue, is not an issue in whether to continue to use that boat launch facility or not.
Who's next, Mike?
Good points raised by everyone. I certainly would think that is in the absence of sterilization stations, signage asking people to head for a car wash and sanitize your boat, sterilize your boat as best as possible after it's been in Lake Winnipeg, because I don't want to see zebra mussels anywhere else. Another couple of points that were brought up about the marina now being open, that may take some pressure off of 504. I hope it does. I don't think it will, because one of the key attractions is that the end of 504 is free. It's a pain in the tuchus, but it is free. I anxiously anticipate the opening of the new RM of Alexander launch next year, hopefully, if they can come to terms with the feds. That's still a heck of a boat ride to get to Elk Island, especially in a little 20 horsepower putt like I use for fishing. 504 is not going to close as a boat launch, so we should get used to that. The permit system, I think, will incent folks from outside of the municipality to go to other places that have better facilities and leave 504 to the locals. And again, implementing the plan that I had created going on 2 years ago, knocking the dust off of it, I think we can make the boat launch at the end of 504 a viable facility for the folks of Victoria Beach.
Just to acknowledge and thank Mike for his input. He spent a lot of time on this. A key word that Mike used is free. Anything that's free tends to get abused. You can't launch your boat for free at Pine Falls. You can't launch your boat for free over at Victoria Beach Estates. As long as it remains free, it invites overuse and abuse.
Okay, Steve.
Okay, so just to be clear, absolutely, there are other boat launches around, and they don't have sanitization stations. We're actively discussing this in a council meeting, so this is on the record that we are sanctioning the violation of a provincial and federal law. So, but like if we decide that we want to keep going, because again, the Canada Water Act says that you can't intentionally put a car or truck or any sort of vehicle into a body of water. The provincial bylaw says that you have to sanitize these. So if we're saying that we're just simply going to ignore it, then that's what we're doing. So if I would be very much in favor of looking at putting a sanitization station there, so then at least that way we're not violating the Manitoba laws. But if we're just saying leave it open and we're not doing anything, then like what are we saying?
Well, our federal pier does not have a sanitation station. So, and I think that there's a great opportunity there for someone like Ironman's Marine to open up a sanitation station in their property. I don't think that's something that the RM wants to get into. I think The province is underfunded, and they're underfunded in all of their programs like that, and they don't have them. We are not expected to have them. We're not condoning it. We do want you to clean your boats, but we don't have, I don't believe we have the mandate to do that. A couple points I want to make, and it's great conversation, thank you, is 504, the end of 504 is public. When you go into Winnipeg, if you don't live there, they don't kick you off the street or make you get a permit. You go in and you enjoy Winnipeg. We cannot stop people from using public roads, highways, or the end of 504, in my opinion. There are private property owners who live at the end of 504 to the left who own right to the shoreline. They have every right to keep people off their property. They can put up their no trespassing signs, and we have to respect them. There are people who own right to the shoreline off of the beautiful Sandy Bay Beach on the south side. They have every right to keep people off of their property. The water is federal. If there are cars, trucks, and tractors in the water, that is a conservation issue, and we should be calling conservation. If there's people parked illegally, people who are drunk and disorderly, we call our police. We can't just close our area to the public. People come into the Village Green all the time. They come into the beaches in the restricted area, to Albert Beach, to Wanasing. They may not have cottages there. They may not pay taxes there. The beaches, for the most part, are public. Everyone has a right to them, unless they're private. So that's my issue. I don't know how we would do a permit system. I don't know how you would logistically handle it. I don't know how, who would look after it. Those are things that could be discussed for sure. But I just want to remind you that public is public, in my humble opinion.
For the folks that want to come into the vehicle restricted area to enjoy all the amenities, you pay to park. You should pay to launch a boat if you are not from within the municipality of Victoria Beach. The permitting system would exempt residents and property owners of Victoria Beach, and a nominal charge for a launching permit would be introduced only to non-residents of Victoria Beach.
I don't know how you'd monitor that.
Well, we have more constables in the summertime. I would probably consult with our chief constable to ensure that there is adequate coverage by his constables in the summer.
Yep.
To check for permits.
It could be a simple plastic or a durable tag you hang from your rear view mirror, like Pine Falls uses. They sell them for $40 each at the gas station in Pine Falls. From a police point of view, cruise by there once in a while. Anybody parked there with a empty boat trailer and no tag in his window, flag him, tag him, bag him.
Okay, Steve.
So just one final point. So we're saying, just since I'm on the police committee, we're going to tell our police to actively phone conservation anytime that there's a
The public can phone conservation.
Okay, so then the public can, and that anybody who's parked along 504 will be receiving a ticket.
Only if they're parked illegally.
Only if they're parked illegally. Okay, all right. But I still do come back to the sanitization problem.
I hear you, but I just don't think it's our responsibility.
You're right. You're right, Steve. But the sanitization is a massive problem that the province has only just scratched the surface of. And the few sanitization stations that do exist were either provincial or private. None of them are municipally funded.
And again, there's no reason why we can't continue to be good stewards of the lake area, and that is signage to encourage people. After you have left Lake Winnipeg, if you plan on visiting another body of water, visit a car wash, visit a sterilization station, sterilize your boat and your vehicle before you put that boat in another body of water. There's not much else we can do.
And I've got the sign. Yep.
So we've discussed it yet again, but we haven't come up with anything concrete or not concrete to help out the people who put up with all the noise and the abuse and all of that at the end of Highway 504. That's the issue.
Well, I think we have. As a first step, as I said, we need to direct some of the traffic away from that area, and that is folks who want to enjoy a beach. Don't use the boat launch and the immediate area to the boat launch as a beach. Let's get them moving to the large public beach, which is a gorgeous beach, by the way, as a first step. Hopefully that is going to alleviate some of the congestion. And then let's start controlling the use of the boat launch facility.
Don't pedestrians have to trespass private property to go over those funny steps over the dunes?
No, we have an agreement.
Oh, we have. Good. That's good. Great. Well, then, by all means, let's direct people there. That's your beach. End of 504 is not a public beach, and we got to spread that word.
And no points in between, for that matter.
Right. There's a. Excuse me. I think directing people to the beach at Sandy Bay is probably the best choice. There is another beach at Belladan. It's much smaller, and it involves going in and around private property. You're just moving the problem.
I would prefer to dissuade the general public from using the beach at Belladan. Number one, as it's pointed out, it is a small beach. Number two, there is not much of a beach there right now.
All right, so you're asking for signage, basically.
And I put a request for the 2019 budget for that signage.
Okay. So, council, or we need to figure out what the signage should say, and there is an awful lot of signage there already, so let's hope people will read it. And
well, maybe part of the
move.
initiative might be to normalize some of the information
Right.
on all of those signs.
Right, but, okay. Any further discussion? And we'll move on. No? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to trailers regarding zoning infractions. Our building inspector and some of council have been receiving complaints about travel trailers and camper trailers being used as summer homes. We're not talking about people who are storing trailers on their property, but rather people who are using them as a cottage or a home in the absence of building. And in our zoning bylaws, our current zoning bylaws, there is absolutely no permission or permitted use of a camper trailer or trailer. So our building inspector has been going around and talking to people and asking them to please move their trailers. I'm not sure how much cooperation he's getting, but I just wanted the public to be aware that they are not permitted in any zone in our municipality to be used as a live-in home. You need to build on your property and pay taxes on your structure like the rest of us instead of paying just property tax. Any comments on my comments? Erwin?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of unsightly travel trailers and small trailers that are not legally parked there. People are using them as auxiliary sleeping quarters, and I find them rather unsightly. I think steps should be taken to have them removed.
There are some significantly unsightly permanent structures and some very, very very good-looking travel trailers out there, and I would suggest that I agree they should not be permanent structures, but But if people are to use them, they have to pull a building permit.
Exactly. I support Curtis in his attempt to cope with this. Some of the worst offenders over the years have been people who've taken advantage of the regulation that allows them to operate out of their trailer for, I believe, up to 2 years while they're building their cottage, but they have to have taken a permit out first. and these are some of the worst violators. Years later, they're still there, living in the place, and still haven't taken out a building permit. These are the ones that stick out most for Curtis, and he's trying to nail them down.
I'm told you cannot get a permit for a trailer. You can, unless you are building.
Exactly. You
Right.
have to have a permit to build a cottage, a building.
Within a short period of
Within
time.
a specified period of time. And the people who have stretched that rule out of shape are some of the worst offenders.
But you're right, Mike, there are some unsightly properties as well, and those can be dealt with under unsightly property. But this is trailers, and we need to support our building inspector. And we need to work with him to figure out a plan. We need to store them if we're going to have to take them away, and we need to be careful with them, and there's some logistics. It would be great if people just moved them without going to the next steps. So we will be looking at that going forward. Anything else on this? Moving on to portable garages. We're in a similar discussion on portable garages. And we're looking at a permit system for them in not all areas of the beach, but some areas of the beach where they have more rooms on their lots. Most of them do not meet national building codes for external loads such as snow, and they can be considered dangerous if they collapse and someone is in them. However, we're working with our building inspector on that initiative as well. They do serve a purpose in some areas, but some areas they definitely do not. So any comments on that?
Well, I think it's appropriate for people to have the ability to put up a portable garage for winter storage. In Montreal, they pop up all over the place, but they have to be taken down. They're not allowed to be maintained in the summertime. So perhaps some sort of a rule on that basis might be reasonable.
Well,
Graham?
something that we. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm speaking out of turn. Sorry, Graham. Something that I had talked to the building inspector about is, well, first of all, even if it's a temporary structure, it will be taxed the same as a permanent structure would be taxed because they're being used for the same purpose, and because there are temporary structures, every 2, possibly 3 years, that structure, if it meets inspection, has to be moved.
We're not sure that a temporary structure such as that could be assessed properly. But a permit.
Just by
permit.
square. Outbuildings are typically by the square foot, not how beautifully they're adorned. Like a bunkie maybe with amenities, but a shed's a shed. And I'm pretty sure it's a basic amount per square foot that the tax is based on.
Well, that is certainly something we can discuss, but a permitting process is definitely required. It is a structure, and you are putting it on your property. And right now, that's not happening either, so.
I like the idea of making sure that they are assessed and taxed for it. That might reduce the number of people who decide to put these things up if it's going to cost them the same amount per square foot as any other structure on their property. Make them pay.
Something to check with assessment. Steve?
I suppose my only issue is just with what Erwin said was that the whole problem is that in the wintertime they get overloaded and they can collapse. So it's sort of doesn't make any sense to allow them during the winter when that's one of the big problems as to the reasons that we don't allow them. So for me, I don't think that they should be allowed in the RM. We don't currently allow for them. But I mean, maybe there could be some sort of permitting system that we could authorize. But then you come into the problem of, well, which ones are structurally sound for the wintertime and which ones are not going to collapse.
Currently, they're not allowed, correct? But they exist. So by the fact that we have not enforced those rules, in fact, that's a quasi-grandfathering proposition. So I think we could have some problems with enforcement now.
You can always start.
I don't think from everything I know about grandfathering that would, because they've never been allowed. So, I mean, unless is 100 years? It,
Doesn't matter.
something
They've
like
never
that.
been allowed.
Yeah, like there's no way that one of those structures has been there long enough, and it's just, I mean, it's never been allowed. So it's something that we should be dealing with. It's not a permitted use. So
These are things we're looking at in our upcoming zoning bylaw that we are working on, and I just wanted the public to be aware that we are looking at them and that we are working with our planner and with our admin people who have to follow up with all of these infraction letters, and hopefully we can work with the public so that we don't have to go that route.
What I learned in business a long time ago, you can't change the rules halfway through the game without giving proper notice.
Right, communication. Mike?
And just for the enlightenment of my fellow councillors, speaking for permanent residents, they do indeed serve a purpose. And the folks who live here 12 months of the year don't have their summer stuff here and their other part of the year at home in Winnipeg or wherever they're from. Everything is here, and everything needs to be stored somewhere.
Okay, thank you very much. I will move on to the Northeastman Community Health Committee Rep Resolution. Be it resolved, the arm of Victoria Beach Council appoint Councillor Bartmanovich as the municipality's representative to the Northeastman Community Health Committee. I'll move it this way. But you could. Moved by Councillor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kumka. Any discussion?
I was going to say, have fun.
Thank you very much, Mike, for agreeing to serve. We appreciate it, and thank you for an excellent report on your maiden trip yesterday.
Your roundabout maiden trip. And this isn't just something that's important to the permanent residents. This is important to everyone who comes to Victoria Beach to know what's going on in the outlying communities and in the hospitals in the outlying areas and the medical system itself. So thank you very much, Mike. All those in favor? Carried. That was easy. Moving on to the Eastern Regional Municipal Lobby Committee Membership Resolution. Be it resolved, the arm of Victoria Beach Council authorized the municipality's membership to the Eastern Region Municipal Lobby Committee for a prorated fee of $688.50 for 2019. Should we add that I will be the rep on that committee? We should amend that resolution.
Just to clarify, we're paying a fee to the lobby committee?
Yes, just as we pay a fee to all these other committees that we're a part of.
And there's a suggestion that we add to that to the effect that we would reimburse or indemnify a designated representative or any representative.
That's in our bylaw.
Oh, okay,
that's automatic.
You got that. Good. Thank you.
So a friendly amendment to the resolution. Further be it resolved that Reeve McMorris be appointed as the municipality's representative on said committee. Moved by Councillor Axworthy, seconded by Councillor Randall. See, we split it that time. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I believe that is the end of other business. There was nothing else added, correct? Correspondence. Anything pop out at anyone that was not answered along the way?
Does the correspondence has to be presented in paper form?
Well, email.
I had a conversation this afternoon with a gentleman, and he asked me to raise his concerns that often when they have summertime bands in the green space down, that and his property's on the edge of that. He said he cannot sit outside at night when the bands are playing, and he was just asking that if they could tone things down a little bit. I mean, my major bone of contention when it comes to any kind of a social event or wedding, I'm not able to talk to my wife because the music's so darn loud. Can we put some decibel requirements on setting maximum sound limits?
Is he? Was the gentleman referring to the Vincent Bandstand or the community club?
It was the bandstand in the green space.
Because we haven't had an evening concert there for a couple of years. There are concerts there in the afternoon. I've got 2 booked for this summer so far, but nothing even goes into the evening yet, unless this the 100th anniversary might. But
in the interest of extending our hearing ability, let's turn the volume down.
okay, I will mention that to the bands. One of them is a German brass band. There's a lot of oompah.
Pop.
Yeah. So, but I didn't think it was as much of an issue during the day. But I will remind them. Thank you.
There was quite a number of items of correspondence, and this is generally written correspondence to council. And it's probably worth mentioning that all correspondence to council is distributed to all council members to look at, deal with, think, act upon, whatever. And at this point of the proceedings, councillors will sometimes speak to 1 or 2 items of correspondence. I would like to speak to the correspondence from Mary Duff concerning signage and the confusing signage along
Sunset and
Sunset and First, which is the chicken and which is the egg. Anyway, I phoned around and I had an excellent conversation with our friend Raymond yesterday, and Raymond had been looking into this and working on it. Raymond was able to advise me, and I'm glad to report to Mary that signage has been obtained, and starting yesterday, I think it was, Raymond, Public Works was going to start erecting the signs. There are 6 of them that will identify which is which at all of the major intersections going north and south. And also some thought is being given, correct me if I'm wrong, Raymond, some thought's being given to supplement, to eventually or in due course adding numerical indicator signs, flags below the main sign, just indicating which way the numbering system goes when you're looking at it. So I'm thanks to Raymond and to Public Works, I'm glad to be able to report that we have taken action on this.
anything else?
I received several emails by different residents who were concerned about the fire ban and the fire permits. The fire ban is going to remain in effect up until Brad and Gary believe and understand that it is safe to have fires. As I said, we only have to look to the other week to realize that there are some fairly major fire issues. One last thing, surrounding the fire pits is that at least in the future, if you notice that there's a lot of the poplar fluff around. The poplar fluff was one of the big problems that they had in that fire. It's actually the first documented fire that we've ever had that has shown that poplar fluff is extremely flammable. So currently that is one of the reasons for the fire ban, that and just some continuing dry conditions. But there's so much fluff on the ground right now that if there is fire, they can't run fast enough to get in front of the fluff to put it out. So until it's safe, it's going to remain in effect.
I was really disappointed to see that Alexander lifted their fire ban.
Just one last thing, because I forgot it a couple times tonight. I'd like to sincerely thank Gary and our police for their extremely dedicated work during that fire, as well as Brad and the entire Victoria Beach Fire Department. Both our departments took control of that fire. The RCMP wasn't able to get there in time, and by the time that they did, they realized that Gary and his staff were more than capable of handling the situation. So he was in charge the whole time, as well as Brad. So both of our EMS crews have just been phenomenal throughout the year and the time that I've been working with them, and they did an absolutely stellar job during the fire.
Thank you. All right. Any further correspondence? Mike, you were good? Completely lost your thought? Okay. Okay. All right, then I will move on to question period and ask that you please give us your name and your address down here, and if you can, keep your questions related to topics discussed tonight, and please use the microphone. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Ted McLaughlin, 341 4th, end of track. And my question, Steve partially answered it with the Fire Smart meeting on July 10th, the emergency measures plan. But I understand that there has been a fire safety plan developed. I mean, I found small references on this on minutes, but it's very inconclusive. When will that be made public or put up so that we can observe it? I've worked in this area my life, not the fire, but landscape management. And I'd like to actually peruse what the report is saying.
I'm not sure what report you're referring to. The emergency plan?
Was it emergency plan?
The municipal emergency plan, that's not actually a public document to my knowledge, is it?
But is that refer to Fire Smart activities that are going to be going on in terms of?
No, that does
Okay.
not refer to the Fire Smart activities.
Okay, where this comes up, I'll frame it, is that when I was down last week, I'm not on King Edward, but somebody was going door to door in King Edward saying that the surveyors, there's a contract let for surveyors to survey King Edward, and that it'll be 100% clear cut. Is that correct?
Oh, well,
And
gee.
but why I'm raising it here is that this is just that because there's no communication, it's just people don't know, and they're going like, I don't think that's right, but I wanted to find out.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question.
Yes.
And no, what we are doing is about 2010, we started a Fire Smart program. 2005 actually, and we got a report in 2010, which our fire department, our fire chief has since forwarded to all of council. We are moving ahead again, this new council, with our Fire Smart initiative. Part of that is the surveying of King Edward and 4th Avenue. This year we budgeted for King Edward. King Edward and 4th are both 99-foot road allowances. The others are usually 66 feet, so we're going with the wider streets. We're surveying them so that we can find our property lines. That does not by any stretch of the imagination mean that we are going to be clear cutting all of those property, all of that property. And I live on 4th Avenue. I don't want that clear cut either, full disclosure. So it's not enough, I appreciate, to say that we're only surveying right now. We are working on a plan. We will be working on a plan with Jeff Irwin, who's from the Office of the Fire Commissioner, and the Fire Smart rep. We're working with Shelley Napier, both of whom will be at the July 10th meeting. And fire is by far our biggest risk. So we're trying to see what we can do by getting these two main roads to start with surveyed and to see what we can do to get rid of the dead balsams, anything with witches broom, things like that, that will open up the road a little bit, but not 99 feet. Thank you for asking. Thank you for not just relying on false news and fake news.